Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Eye Opener Society. Thank you again for joining our little podcast, our ministry. Everything about you makes us feel so good because the more I look and see how many people are listening and downloading, we appreciate you so very much. We want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you again to Appalachian Rootworks, rooted in ruins. Please check them out at AppalachianRootworks.com. Dear friends, Carly and Carla, I want to push their energy clearings. They're amazing at this. It's something that they're very passionate about. Please reach out to them. They'll give you all the information. You do not need to go into the shop. They could do it remotely. So please check them out, AppalachianRootworks.com. I have a great little episode today because I'm very excited. There's nothing more. There's nothing that means more to me than the people that are in my life. Lizzie, especially, it's great to see her. It's great to be back recording with her. And of course, now our newest minister, Halos, joins us too as well. And Halos has mentioned that she's been talking, or at least thinking a lot about um, honoring human emotions while being spiritual and honoring both the light and the dark. So let's turn it over to Halos. Halos, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. So yeah, this is something that's been coming up a lot for me, because I noticed early in my healing journey, really what kind of gave me my spiritual awakening was Buddhism, and that's something that I really follow very closely. Is the religion of Buddhism, Buddhist teachings and beliefs, and meditate daily. And what this does for me is it gives me a sense of my spiritual identity, of being connected to everything. And I notice that the more that I kind of lean into that spiritual identity, the more I tend to neglect my human identity or my human emotions because, there's this feeling of, okay, I am God, I am this very powerful being. And with that, there comes a sense of almost superiority, like feeling like I don't need to have these emotions or I don't need to feel sad. And I think that this is very common in the spiritual community, is bypassing human emotions because you realize that there is a way to feel joy and peace all the time. However, I feel like it's through honoring both the light and the dark that we are then able to really be our wholest and truest self.
That's wonderful. Because this is something I sometimes confuse myself with. Same thing like me with meditating every day, learning more and more about spirituality and the God, or at least the God mind, where you are your own God, you are a creation, you are the universe.
Mhm.
You do kind of lose some emotions because we're always taught to drop the ego, but yet sometimes we kind of put our emotions as part of our ego when I think they really need to be separated.
Mm.
So I struggle sometimes with that myself. But the other thing, what I like about this, the light and the dark and our emotions, me as a Libra, just by design, I'm all about balance. We have to have our light and our dark, our good and our bad. So I'm going to enjoy talking about this topic. So, Lizzie, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I love this topic. And this kind of is something that I focus on pretty frequently. Um, the thing is I got stuck in the idea kind of, yeah, like attaching certain emotions to your ego. Like you're not supposed to feel anger, right? You're supposed to get to a place where the other person's resonance can't affect you. And I was getting really good at that, at just letting people's energy move through me. But the thing was it just kind of clamped down more and more and more. And it was because I was unknowingly bypassing anger. Because in my mind, anger meant like an unreasonable surge of defensiveness. And if you're quantumly safe and infinitely abundant and whatever, like you don't need to protect. That's something they talk about all the time. That is a shadow, the need to protect. But the thing is also there's something very sacred in like sacred rage, right? Like a mother protecting her child, a stranger protecting another stranger they see. There is something very beautiful about that. And you know, it's all beautiful in theory to acknowledge that like you don't need that, you can just like keep moving on. But there's a reason your resonance chose to witness that. You know what I mean? There's a reason that you looked over that way when that was happening. Because if you weren't meant to witness it, you wouldn't have noticed it. And I see this all the time in like groups of people when I'll see something, you know, funny, not necessarily related to this, but like nobody else in the group saw it. Everybody was looking off this other way. And it changes your entire experience. But the thing is I think that every single emotion has its purpose, but they're all multidimensional like we are. Like anger is protective, but anger is also where you realize a way that you're not being the expanded self. Sometimes it's not about protection. Sometimes it's about not even acknowledging something. Like if like jealousy, for example, a lot of times jealousy comes from you seeing something you want you didn't know you even wanted. But you have to like let it show you what is trying to open.
I love that you, yes, brought in jealousy specifically because I just posted a video today on jealousy and how it's associated with a blockage in our third eye chakra. And so, yes, these emotions are supposed to teach us about ourselves. And we can't learn the lessons if we're bypassing them and simply saying, nope, I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to deal with this because this isn't who I am. Like, I am this all powerful being. Yes, you are, but like, we are multidimensional. And I do notice like the more energy I do give a certain emotion, the more I'm able to learn from it. And that's another thing too, is like we have to realize that yes, we are souls, but we are also human beings and a human body. And with that, one of my favorite things, I'm actually a big studier of psychology and specifically trauma and how trauma relates to the somatic experience of having a body. And so your body remembers when you have trauma. And the thing is, if you're not honoring that and you're not like focused on the emotions that are in your body, then it will manifest into physical illnesses. And so it really does just emphasize the importance of, right, like really becoming comfortable with these emotions and knowing that they don't have to overpower you, but allowing them to have space to express themselves.
Mm.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And it's hard because sometimes I don't know about everybody else, but I feel my feelings like very intently, like through my whole body. I feel angry. I, you know, get tunnel vision for a second. That's just kind of like how I've always been. But the thing is it moves you. It tells you things. I think that emotions are part of the human experience, but it's also part of the soul's experience. And I think that human experience does kind of have like a tinge of like almost the illusion you have to suffer. But I in part think that's because of the way that we've defined it. As I've like gotten used to sitting in the discomfort of my own, you know, jealousy or rage or grief or whatever, it stops being painful. It stops feeling like it's crushing you. And you start feeling the different places in your body where things are moving. And
Mhm.
then when it all moves and your brain does its thing where it like tells you a bunch of like lies about how the world is ending or, you know what I mean, whatever it's doing, when all that settles and you push all of that over to here where it's like, okay, well, obviously these are things I don't understand since they came up and smacked me in the face while I'm freaking out. It's like solutions just kind of come up. But that it's like it has to move first. Otherwise, you make decisions same to your old pattern. Because yeah, your nervous system remembers everything that you've been in. It's like trying to predict the future. Which how
Mhm.
do you relax into openness if you're used to bracing every time you feel that intense energy? That intense energy, I learned to just get excited about it. Like, ooh, okay, something's moving. And then I'll just like, you know, Marco Polo Gary many a times like crying obnoxiously over like this sad piece in this cartoon. And he's like, okay, Lizzie, sure.
And it's
But
not like I'm
I'm like,
not
how do you
acknowledging
know
you.
all you know?
Well, this is great. Listen, I appreciate that, Lizzie. And I appreciate you and I appreciate those Marco Polos because you're being your authentic self. And I love that about you. But also, Halos, I love the fact you bring it up. This is very when it comes to like a psychology, because when we're talking amongst the three of us, that's great, but we're also speaking to a very wide audience. And most of our audience, I would like to believe, we're all very spiritual. And this is something, like I said, it's kind of conflicting in my life because for many, many years, like I said, stuck in a 3D world, I was just based upon this 3D earth. And yes, emotions were one of the things that I just gone through because I figured, well, that's just the human experience. This is the way we are. And then when I started getting into the spiritual community, I started seeing things from a much different perspective. When I started gaining more momentum in my meditations and it became more intense, I said, this is great. It's great to sit quiet and not worry about emotions. And then you get thrown right back into that 3D world. We do need to understand that there's separation. No one should, who's trying to be spiritual, shouldn't be told you have to be one way all the time and just disregard all emotions. Because again, like I said, with jobs, some jobs that we have, it requires us some emotions. My job gets, there's sometimes a lot of anger, you know, and I have to acknowledge that though. I have to acknowledge, yes, I'm being angry, but there's a cause behind it. I'm not doing it to lessen my spirituality. I'm just stuck in a 3D world right now. Through meditation, I could release all of that and I could come back to what I am and I can respect everybody, even those that I was angry towards. So I appreciate you bringing up the whole psychology of this because, yeah, I believe there is a lot that people are experiencing and questioning, well, am I really spiritual if I'm going through these emotions?
Yeah, no, that's something I had to talk to my friend about because she's going through a difficult time. And she's like, yeah, I feel like all of the spiritual work I've done just gone out the window because I feel so angry all the time. And I'm like, no. Also, that's another thing. When you build your capacity to hold these large emotions, you will be given larger doses of those emotions. So it's going to come back even more intense because you're at a higher, heightened state of consciousness to where you can hold that now, to where you wouldn't have been able to before. And yeah, like that's also something that I've been experiencing is because I have been doing the work to the capacity that I have been. I've been getting these emotions or just like, yeah, all these suppressed emotions coming up full force. And it's been very intense. And I'm like, why am I not like peaceful anymore? Like what's going on? And I'm like, okay, this is the thing though, is I think this is another thing that is so important to remember is the spiral of life because nothing is linear. And that's especially not healing. And we do go through it in phases and we'll kind of go through a phase where we're building that capacity and then we're hit with like this wave of something that needs to be dealt with because we're strong enough to hold it now. And so, yeah, I just have to remind myself that that is a gateway to expansion. And I really like what Lizzie said too, is that we kind of get caught up in this idea that we have to suffer. But once you become more comfortable with it, it doesn't feel like it's suffering anymore. And I think that this is very strange for me this past time to experience so many emotions and not really feel like trapped by them. I saw them more as an opportunity to grow rather than an obstacle because like, oh, I know what this is. Like this is just me preparing myself to grow more. And like this is just teaching me. And so yeah, it's really important that we do see those as opportunities. All of our emotions are opportunities and they don't have to be something that evokes suffering, but rather wisdom.
I love that. And I also feel it's really important to add that as you're exploring allowing your own emotions to come out, it of course is important to attempt not to hurt other people. But sometimes if you're being real with yourself, okay, it sounds kind of silly, but me and my husband got in an argument a little bit ago. I'm terrified of moths. Like this unreasonably terrified. And there was a moth, and it came and found us in the bathroom when we were getting ready for bed. And he's like, "Let's just close the door. Like it'll stay in here. You're just fine." And I'm like, "Okay, it's late. Like it's fine." And so then we're in the living room talking, and this moth comes up and flies underneath his arm right up into my face, which is my fear because they always fly into my face. And then it goes and lands on the wall. And I'm like, can you please catch that moth? And he's like, I really don't want to. I really just want to go to bed and not chase a moth around. And I was mad about it. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man, right? Like my brain starts going through all those things. And I just let myself be angry, right? Not meaning that he's like a terrible person. I'm just angry about this thing. And when I let all my anger go, something that came to my mind afterwards was it's valid that I'm angry, but it's also valid he didn't want to catch the moth. Like he catches so many bugs for me throughout the day. Like he's tired. It's a well-established thing in our relationship that like after about 10 p.m., like he just needs to go to bed. This is established. Do you know what I mean? And so although it's fair that I was mad he wouldn't catch the moth because I'm terrified of it, it is just a moth. And what I really, really wanted was to be less afraid of the moth. That's what I wanted. But I had to allow myself to chill, to be angry, because if I didn't let myself be angry at him and skipped to like, well, he doesn't have to do it, now I just like denied myself this whole experience where I actually ran through all the things my brain is saying that I actually disagree with, but my body wants to say, this is important. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think that it's so important, as you said, like, um, really, you just didn't want to be afraid of the moth. That's where the issue is coming from. It didn't have anything to do with him because I kind of went through a similar thing, like going through an agreement or disagreement. And yeah, it helps so much because I have this friend who's very spiritual, and he just went on a spiritual journey, and he was talking about how in the wilderness a bear charged at him, and immediately he wanted to run out of the circle because they're like in a circle, but he didn't, and he like closed his eyes and he prayed, and the bear like went away, and he was like saying how much of a metaphor it was for life because these things are going to provoke us, and we're going to have these emotions come up, but if we step out of the circle of love, if we step out of our prayer, then that's no one's fault except our own. Like we have to learn how to deal with our emotions in a way that it's not hurting other people or seeing other people at fault for that. Because yeah,
Yes. Okay, I love this metaphor, and I think that it works for so many people for certain stages of their spiritual awakening. But that same metaphor is what basically destroyed my life
wow.
because that's the thing was everything that I was taught was about just be love, and so I was like I let everybody do their thing. I stood up for myself, but in the most respectful way possible. But a completely polar side of that truth that I was not acknowledging, that I'm just barely recently starting to understand, is that the tension that we learn to just like let move through us sometimes doesn't want to move through us. Sometimes is asking for something to be like built.
Hmm.
Is come with like a purpose. And so sometimes, yeah, you can close your eyes and pray about it, right? And maybe it does just bypass you. That's an important part of learning how to like harness that like beautiful love frequency. But the thing is living in that every day all the time isn't really authentic to us. There's a reason we feel this like resistance. And what was happening to me was when I would do that metaphor of like just, allowing it and, using affirmations, frequency music, meditating, all the stuff, it kept clamping down harder and harder and harder until I had no food, no money. Like I had nothing, nothing. And I still just kept doing it. And I existed just at that spot until I started doing it just like a little bit differently. Because I think that every truth has two polar truths. And whenever you explore one to a certain degree, it's like it almost starts harming you to do it. And that's kind of the way that it pushes us to try the other way, but only because that's the way we've patterned to learn. And so I don't want it to be like it has to be that way. But that's a lot of times when we move is because something's tense. And so it's like if you want to, if that's your instinct to close your eyes and pray, then that's exactly what you should do. And whatever comes of that is exactly what's supposed to happen. But if you don't feel like praying, if you feel like running from the bear, then that's probably the most authentic thing for you in that moment. You know what I mean? It's not like one action is higher resonance. It's what does your body want to do? That'll always tell you what's the best for you.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah, I'm listening to all of this and I'm amazed to see how all three of us we see things in a different way. However, we're also seeing things in the very same way as well. And I think this is an important lesson to anybody that's listening to this. We are our own true selves. And the whole point of our conversation here is really acknowledge yourself. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be so tied up in the entire spiritual, guidance and words. There's no script to this. We write our own little playbooks every single day. That's what helps us get along. And this entire bear metaphor is perfect. It's a fight or flight reaction. Like Lizzie said, hey, maybe your body at that moment says, hey, run, there's a bear coming. That moment, if that's what you feel strongly and you run, that's your survival mode. But if you're feeling spiritually strong enough to where you're just going to sit there and pray, and then the bear
Well,
walks away, that too is now your survival as well. Go ahead, Lizzie. Am I misinterpreting or?
oh, oh, I was just gonna say that what I was acknowledging was that it's not whether you're spiritually sound enough to pray the bear away. The thing is that for one person, they are learning to calm and center themselves, whereas another person might be learning to move when the fire gets hot. Another person might be learning how to stand up for themselves. Maybe the best thing for them is to scream at the bear. That might be the most in resonance for their experience. And so it's not necessarily like trying to figure out what the best quantum answer is and trying to accomplish it so much as what is the right thing for you right now, which is only you can determine. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
It does. It clarifies. Yeah. And again,
Great.
it is, yeah, just like you said, it is that experience at that point based upon the person and what it is we're going to feel at that moment. It's going to work for us. So we need to, just like the whole conversation is coming to, is like we need to acknowledge our emotions because they're human emotions and they have human reactions as well.
Mhm.
But if you're going to wind up being an evil person your whole life, that too is a conscientious choice. You're not going to be on that higher spiritual plane as the rest of us, but you made a conscientious choice to be evil. And that's why I think the word balance falls into this. And I think, and Hale is correcting me if I'm wrong, with Buddhism too, they teach a lot about balance, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken
yeah.
with that. Yeah. So I think this is the greatest message that we're actually bringing forward. I think we can talk about this a lot. And there may even be future episodes where we could expand on this because I appreciate this. I love it. This is why Lizzie and I were excited to have Halos in here because Lizzie and I, we can sit here and talk all the time, but sometimes after a while, it's just Lizzie and I. When we throw in somebody else, it's great. And Halos, you really do. I think spiritually too, you're connected in a very, like, I just want to say it's in a way where I'm very comfortable listening and I'm very receptive to everything that you're saying too. It's a lot like Lizzie, when she talks, like she's great at giving her um interpretations of life or whatever it may be too. And I just feel like I'm in great company, but I think we have to think beyond us too and think about our audience as well because really everybody out there that's listening, everyone's experiencing something in life and we're all experiencing it in different ways. But in the end, we're under the same roof of the cosmos and we're all part of that cosmos. And once we acknowledge that, we are much better and then we become better as a society.
Yes. Beautifully said. I love that. Mhm.
Thanks. Well, on that note, I will leave it on that ending because I think that's a very important message. And I really want to express to the audience if you ever need to reach out to any of us, whether it be Lizzie, whether it be Halos, whether it be Elaine, churchofEOS at gmail.com, just reach out to us. And also, please tune into my Wednesday night guided meditations if you haven't already, because I'm having a 3-part series on third eye meditation. So tune in for that. I spent a lot of time with it. I feel very proud of it, and I would love to share it with everybody. And again, if you want to work with me on meditations one on one, churchofEOS at gmail.com. And Halos, real quick, give your information if someone wants to reach out to you directly.
Yeah, so my information is going to be through my website at unifiedfrequency.com, and unified is spelled UNIFEYED, like I in the middle. And yeah, that's just going to be contact at unifiedfrequency.com. That's my email.
And I will definitely make sure that there is a link down in the synopsis. And don't forget to read the synopsis because the last time nobody read the synopsises, nobody knew what was going on with the argument between Lizzie and Lizzie. So, everybody, thank you again so much for tuning in. I want to thank Lizzie, as always. Thank you so much. Halos, thank you as well for joining us. This is beautiful. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to tune in every Monday morning when we have our shows. And don't forget to tune in Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when Lizzie and I give our sermons. They're live across Facebook and YouTube, and then you could catch the recording immediately after. We'll see you soon.